be here. I sound just a little bit nasally. I got the cooties from the children. I'm sure you all have experienced getting the cooties from the children. I'm about 75%, but I'm 100% ready to be here to talk to all of you. So I'm very excited about it. Several months ago, in my job that I get paid for, I was in front of one of my classes, and I do transition assistance, which is part of the TAP program. You probably know that, when you're transitioning out of the military. And it's the time when I get into front of every class, I start off by saying, let me introduce myself. I'll tell you a little bit about me. And I said, my name is Caramel McCoy. My husband has been active duty for 20 years. My father is a 22-year retiree, and I thought, wait a minute. That really is not me talking about me, is it? I'm really talking about my husband and my father. I'm not really talking about who I am. And I think that we as spouses, we as women, a lot of times what we do is we often enter into a conversation about ourselves by talking about everyone who's around us. And it's not that those people who are around us, our husbands and our children and any of our coworkers, not that they don't matter. It's not that they're not important. But I also think it's important for us as women, as spouses, to be able to talk about ourselves in a positive way. And be able, when someone asks us about ourselves, that we talk a little bit about ourselves. We absolutely tell someone about who we are. And it's not being boastful at all. It's just giving them a sense of who we are to engage in conversation. So I'll start off by saying my name is Caramel McCoy. And Caramel is my government name. My father named me Caramel. I say it's caramel. He says it's caramel. Who's right? Who's right? Of course I'm right. It's my name. I understand he gave it to me, but I'm comfortable with saying caramel now. It hasn't been that way in past years. Sometimes I've been called Candy. I've called myself K Elizabeth, K. Elizabeth. Because sometimes I'm not really comfortable with caramel, but now that I'm 41 years old, I'm kind of in a space where, you know what, caramel is what it is, this is who I am, I'm all about it. So it's a pleasure to meet all of you. I can tell you that over the past years, I have done plenty of things, right? And I think about the fact that all of you in this room, every single one of you, I know all of you are experts. That's a big deal for me. I know that everyone in this room, with their experience, their years of being on this earth, are experts. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what that means. So I'm probably not unlike everyone else in this room. Yes, I've got a college degree, I've got an MBA, I am educated, I've had 37 different paid positions, and I've started 6 businesses. Whoa. That's a whole lot of things that I can say I've done, right? 37 jobs. I can tell you, when I first started taking track of the jobs that I had over my life, I thought, oh my goodness, what am I doing? I am a failure. I have not had a career. What am I doing? This is terrible, right? And then when I started coming up with the process, I thought, well, really, I'm not really a bad person. I just live a lifestyle of the career challenged. What does that mean, a lifestyle of the career challenged? Well, career has 2 different definitions. One is a noun and one is a verb. In the noun, the definition of career, it is, and I want to write it down. I have my paper here. I always like to give the Webster's Dictionary version, and it says, an occupation undertaken for a significant period of a person's life with opportunities for progress. For example, the sentence is, I have enjoyed my 20-year career as a public school teacher. My having 37 jobs and started 6 businesses does not say an occupation as in one. I've had several. And over a significant period of one's life, well, shucks, I've had a lot of experience over my life, but it hasn't been in one occupation. Oh my goodness, I don't have a career. What am I going to do? This is terrible, right? But then consider what career is in the verb tense. To move swiftly in an uncontrolled way in a specified direction. The car careered across the road and went through a bunch of hedges. That sounds like me, moving swiftly, uncontrolled way. Wait a minute. You all are probably just like me, right? The military always called you and took your advice on where you needed to go when it was time to leave, right? They always called you up and consulted you before a PCS came. Your orders were never finalized until they said, you know what, are the kids out of school? Is there a break? That's what happened, right? Of course not. So I can say very, very positively that moving swiftly in an uncontrolled manner, right, I'm going fast every 2, 3, 5 years. maybe in an assignment. In an uncontrolled way, I don't control it. DOD does, military does. But in a specified direction, yeah, wherever they tell me to go, right? I can tell you that it's not all a loss. The reason why I tell you all of you are experts is because you all have a wealth of experience. You all have things that people do and that you do that people identify as your expertise. I liked when I heard Nan talking about how she's had all of these different board positions and she volunteers for a living, and I think in your bio it says thousands of hours. And just because that position was not the paid position does not mean it's any less of a position at all. And that's two times we're all concerned about the word career and thinking the definition of a 20-year career as our husbands may have. But your career is not defined by one position, but it's defined by a whole lot of positions. It's defined by many, right? So when I talk about how this came about for me, it was around job number 30. And I was working in a position as, I found an announcement for a work at home position. Anybody familiar with work at home? Where you have these jobs that you can work from your house, answering customer service calls a lot of times, or maybe customer service agents. And there was a listing, and we were stationed at Shepherd Air Force Base in Wichita Falls, Texas. Anybody from Texas? Hee-haw. No Texans in here. Wow, that's amazing. Okay. Near Lawton, Oklahoma. There's Fort Steele there. Just nowhere. And so the announcement was for a position for someone to take a job. And I thought, oh, I can do this. $13 an hour. I was pregnant with Elena Barbara, my daughter. And I said, I can do this, you know. And so it was the final day of the training course, and it was a 3-week course, and it was the final day. And we were doing our final exam, and they told us that we couldn't leave until everyone was finished. So I had finished a little early, and I was resigned to my own thoughts as I'm waiting for everyone to get finished. And I'm thinking, man, how did I get to this job, right? Like, you know, making $13 to get home. I've never done that homework. What is that going to look like? I said, man, I wish I had kept that other job. I thought about that. And then from there, I started making a list of all the jobs that I had. So I went back, and I started going backwards. Okay, KNIN, the Officers Club, the Enlisteds Club. And then I went to WQUE, and I went all the way back. And as I got to the bottom of the list, I had 30 positions, and this is when I was freaked out. Like, oh my goodness, I've got these 30 jobs. I don't have a career. This is a detriment to the society. I am of know-nothing. I am worthless. And then I thought, well, surely, after having all those positions, I've got some kind of skill set. I wouldn't have got this job, right? They hired me because I had some kind of skills. So I started thinking about that. Well, what did I do at those 30 jobs? What did I do? So I started writing down, okay, WQUE. Oh, I answered the phone calls. I was on the radio. I wrote some commercials. And I said, okay, Enlisted Club. Oh, I did the AATC football fantasy, and I did training, and I was operations manager, and I did inventory. And I started writing down a list of things that were basically skill sets. Things that I had acquired and done in many different jobs. Not the same job, but many different jobs. And that skill set came down to where I had a whole list of things, and sometimes I could circle them twice because it was like, oh, I've done this before again. I started making notches next to the ones that I've done before in other positions. And I realized I had a fantastic skill set list. That while job title-wise and W-2-wise and having many job-wise, it might look like it's very sporadic and uncontrolled. It absolutely is controlled. Because whatever that job that I had at that time that I was doing, it is the job that made sense for what was happening in my life and in my family. Consider that. Everything that you're doing, whether it be volunteer, a paid position, anything that you're doing, everything is for the good of who is most important to you. Sometimes that's more important for you. It may be the family. It may be the location. All of those things. So I'm sitting in that desk, right? And I've written down all of my jobs, and I've got this skill set list. And now it's time for me to finish, right? Because everybody's done, and I go home. And I realized, man, as I'm mulling over that, I started getting more and more enthralled in figuring out what this thing called career really meant, and how I got to be where I am, and how I can move forward. And so I can tell you that when I started coming up with the list, and I had everything written down, and I'm counseling different people, and people were coming around, and I was discerning what lifestyle of career challenge looked like. I remember coming across one of my good friends. Her name is Kara. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself, a little bit more about myself. I'm not a baker. Like, I don't know how to bake. I don't make cookies. I don't make cupcakes. I do make cakes. I did make cakes. I made a cake, and then my kids would take a piece of cake and they'd try it and say, oh, Mom, this is great. And then the cake would mold because they wouldn't eat the cake. And that was a box cake. So I really know that I'm not really skilled at cake making or cupcake making. So Kara is a great cupcake maker. And so Kara was one of the folks who came to one of my workshops, you are an expert workshop, and I said, Kara, you know you're an expert, right? And she says, no. I said, yeah, you're an expert cupcake maker. She said, yeah, I'm not an expert. I didn't go to school. And a lot of times we consider going to school or having some formal education as a reason why we can say that we're great at what we do. We don't like to boast, right? We never want to say and give ourselves any credit. And I said, okay, so Kara, when I call and need cupcakes, I call you. Do you know why I call you? Because your cupcakes taste good. And then when I go to different spouse events or go to any kind of squadron event, and I say, who made the cupcakes? And they say, oh, Kara made the cupcakes. I say, yeah, because she makes great cupcakes, doesn't she? And they say, yeah, she makes great cupcakes. And then when I go to a retirement ceremony and I go to all these different special occasions and I see cupcakes and I say, who made the cupcakes? And they say, Kara made the cupcakes. I say, well, shucks. Kara, if you're not an expert, well, then who is? Is it because you didn't go to formal school? Is it because you didn't go to Le Cordon Bleu or to the Culinary Arts Institute? No, absolutely not. You are an expert because somebody is calling you because you do something great and they want it and need it. Whether you get paid for that skill is a whole other story. It has nothing to do with about getting paid and making money. When we volunteer our time, we're volunteering absolutely our expertise. I can guarantee you that when they go to Nan, they know she's the foremost authority when they go to her. Because when they ask her a question, she's going to be able to give them the correct answer at that time because they know she knows the right answer. They're not going to go ask somebody who doesn't have any experience in that. They're going to go ask her. And I like to always say, when I'm doing these seminars or doing a talk, I always like to say that every expert started as an amateur. Did you know that? Your skill sets come about because people have asked you to do things, and over time you've gotten better and better. The reason why Kara is an expert as a cupcake maker, even though she doesn't have a formal business and she doesn't make any money, she usually just takes donations. You know, those ingredients cost a lot. She's perfected those recipes, and it's not cheap to make those cupcakes. So now she says, look, just make sure you give me enough money to cover my costs, right, for the good work I'm doing. But I can tell you that even then, you're talking about an expertise that's certifiably the best out there. And she's going to be able to take that from base to base, the same way Nan takes it from base to base, right? We take it from place to place, our expertise. And payments has nothing to do with it. It has everything to do with what you do and how you value your time. I used to volunteer at church, and the pastor had asked me one time to do a special occasion event for Valentine's Day. And it went off without a hitch. Everyone loved it. I mean, they were felt like we had a 4-course meal, and we had violins playing. It was just the kids in the choir and from the band. And we had all this great stuff. And, you know, they gave me like $500 budget to feed like 500 people. And it was like, what are you going to do, right? You do whatever you can. And it came off without a hitch. And then, you know, someone said, hey, it looked like you probably could do that. Event planning for me, I have a baby shower. Can you do it? And I said, sure I can. I could cater a baby shower course. So I did it, and it was fantastic. The chicken wings came off exquisitely. When I tell you those are some banging chicken wings, those are some good chicken wings. And that fruit glacé that I had for that vegetable tray, it was just as phenomenal. And then I make this great yogurt dressing to go with that vegetable tray. And everyone was like, this is fantastic. And I dropped that food off and said, never again will I ever do any kind of cater. This is not my expertise. I don't want anything to do with it. While I did a good job and everyone loved it, I didn't love it at all. And that's a part of my expertise that I'll never explore again. Why? Because I don't want anything to do with that. It was a lot of work and I didn't like it. And that's okay too. Because a lot of times we don't do the things that we think that we want to do because we're afraid of how it's going to look or how we're going to feel afterwards, or if it's going to give us the great accolades that we want. Or we're thinking that, oh man, somebody might say it's not so good. Just so you know, everything is not always that great. But when you put forth your best effort and realize that you can leave it alone, that's fine too. So I like to say, as far as expertise goes, I have a few expertises that I've been exploring. But I'm an accidental tax expert. And I say that accidentally because I have a tax business on the side. Remember I told you I started 6 businesses. One of the thriving businesses that I still operate to this day, during tax season I have a tax business and I do taxes on the side. And I've been doing this tax business for about 12 years. And it started because I was doing my taxes, and I was doing my mom's, and I was doing my aunt's, and then I was doing a friend of theirs. And then I was doing some people that I knew at some bases. And so now, from the time that I, never having a business card, never having a website, never having a traditional business and anything that you think about what business looks like, I had 65 clients. And I was like, this is ridiculous. No, nothing, right? I'm just doing taxes on the side. So from that, I started with, just going into people's TurboTax and saying, yeah, you did this wrong, and fixing things. Then I started saying they would send me their paperwork and I'd go in there and put it in. I started from $50 and then I said, look, it's $100. And so I was making about $150, $100 a tax return. And so then I got a big girl job. That's what they call this job that I do, that I get paid for, the VA benefits advisor. And I got this job and I'm getting paid for that. And it was a lot of work. It was very demanding. And then tax season comes and I've got 65 clients and I'm like, this is murderous. I can't do it. I'm going to quit the tax business. I'm done. I'm not doing the tax business. My husband says, no. This is great money. You do this well. You started this from scratch. You got 65 clients. And I said, where were you back 12 years ago when I was saying I was doing this tax business? And you said, oh, how much is it going to cost? And what are you thinking? What do you mean doing taxes? And how I moved on through my process. And now I've got 65 clients. And now you're saying, buddy, that I can't lose that business? And I'm pretty upset about it, right? Because I don't want to let the business go. I've got 65 clients. What am I going to do? And so I called a member of my kitchen cabinet. And we're going to talk about kitchen cabinets in just a bit. But the member of my kitchen cabinet that I called was Kenny. And Kenny is my financial advisor on my kitchen cabinet. And Kenny, I said, hey, listen, when it comes to money, I always come to you about it. I'm thinking about losing the tax business. I've got this job right now. I'll start it back up when I get to the States. He says, you know that most people, when they have a business and you let it go, when they try to come back, all those clients are gone. You're never going to get them back. I said, yeah, well, I'm tired. He said, I'll tell you what you do. Go ahead and double your rates. I said, he said, that's the problem right now. You got you're only charging $100 and it's not worth your time. That's what the issue is. Go ahead and double your rates and then it'll be worth your time. I said, I don't know how that translates, but okay. Because I trust him. I trust what he says to me. And so that's what I did. Come December, I formulated an email that I sent out to all the people that I do taxes for. And I said, hey, tax season's coming. January's almost here. Get your tough stuff together. And by the way, I'm doubling my rates. It's going to be $250. If you bring a new customer, I'll make it $200. And he was right. Half of my customers left. But the phenomenal thing was the other half stayed and I was getting paid the same money that I had before because I doubled my rate. And I was like, this is fantastic. Kenny, he's a smart guy, right? He had shared with me just a great principle, is that you have to value your time. We talked about, say no. Learn how to say no. We all say, learn how to say no. Really, you should be valuing your time. Value what you bring to the table and understand that when you bring it to the table, you bring it full throttle, and that anyone who's not respecting that or giving you the full tools that are necessary in order to make that happen, well, it's not worth your time. And that's when you have to say no. Because your time is invaluable. You have so many things on your will. Everybody has things on their will. I had wine on mine. I just want to say the reason why is because I have a goal that 500 bottles will leave with me when I leave Germany. And that's why wine was a big deal for me. I've got 150 bottles. They keep dwindling. I drink a little bit. And then my mom comes and everybody comes and I give them a couple of bottles. But anyway, I digress. At the end of the day, you have this big wheel of things that you have going on. And I need you all to consider what your expertises are and where you can be valuable and make sure that it's going to be something that motivates you. So we talked about Kara and how she did not believe that she was an expert, right? She had no belief in her being an expert. And by the time we were done with the workshop, I'm saying, hey, Kara, listen. Look at what we're talking about here. Whether you want to make a dime making cupcakes or not, it does not change the fact that people love them. And if you ever thought of exploiting your expertise, you could do a phenomenal job at that. Some of us can have our own nonprofits. Some of us can be experts in doing our kids' planning for their schooling. Some of us volunteer all kinds of great hours. Some of us have had paid jobs, unpaid jobs, here and there and everywhere. But I ask you all to take note of some of those things that you have to offer and circle those and identify those. And those are the things that you accentuate. Those are the things that you add to your repertoire. And then when it comes time to you figuring out what your expertise is, you have that knowledge of what you have done in the past, where you've worked, what you have done in the past, and being able to navigate that way. So I told you a little bit about my kitchen cabinet. I believe in kitchen cabinets. So I'll give you some background on what a kitchen cabinet is. So Andrew Jackson was one of our presidents. And when he was in office, it was at the beginning of our government, and it was a very tumultuous time. And they were infighting and bickering all the time. Not unlike, I guess, some of the bickering that's going on now. But we won't speak on that. At any rate, he has his cabinet, right? A cabinet are the official folks who are part of his administration, who help him make decisions and are trusted advisors. Well, his cabinet was defunct. None of them wanted to work together. They couldn't get anything done, so they decided, he decided, you know what, I'm not going to have any cabinet meetings anymore. And he decided he was going to go and talk to his own personal trusted advisors, who would be folks that they identified as fantastic people who could help him manage and navigate what he needed to navigate in the presidency. And the press called them not the cabinet, but the kitchen cabinet. It really was a derogatory term when he was in presidency, right? The press were saying, you got this kitchen cabinet, they ain't nobody, they don't know anything, what do they know? But they were trusted advisors to him. And I can tell you that they're pretty much like a board of directors. And I think that everyone, no matter who they are, need to have a personal kitchen cabinet. You all need to have a set of advisors who can help you navigate anything that you're thinking about doing at any given time. The reason why they help you navigate and they're your trusted advisors is because you believe when you talk to them that they're going to give you straight and true, they're going to keep you on target, and they're going to help you make a decision that's going to be better for you. So I've had people ask me all the time, well, is your husband on your kitchen cabinet? And I have to say, while he is a very much so a trusted advisor, he is not a part of my kitchen cabinet. He's too close to the situation. His decisions are made emotionally. They're not decisions, it's not ideas and things that come to breaking it great for me. It's usually, money, time, effort, why. It's never anything that I feel like is positive. Now, he's a great guy. I love him to death. That's why we've been married as long as we've been married. At the end of the day, my kitchen cabinet is reserved for people who are going to make me feel, bless you, they're going to make me feel good about the decisions I'm making, and they're going to give it to me straight. So I said, Kenny is my financial guy. I called Kenny when I'm about to spend some money. So back when I was at my last assignment, and I was thinking, I had this tax, I had 65 clients, right? They're all over the world. And I said, Kenny, I'm going to open up a brick and mortar. I'm going to go into my own shop, Caramel's Tax Preparation. And Kenny says, yeah, so I don't know. Let's talk about that. How much is the rent? And he started asking me all these questions, and I had all the information. Well, it costs this much and it's that much. He says, and how many clients do you have? I said, 60. And how much are you charging? 100. And he said, yeah, that math doesn't add up. You're going to go into that building, you're not going to make a dime. And then you're going to be bitter that you went into this building. And I said, well, mate, I'm going to make all these other customers come to me. I'm going to have it. They're going to come just because everybody does. He says, it's not like your word of mouth business. When you decide to go into brick and mortar, you're asking for a lot more responsibility and time and effort. And he says, and right now you're thriving. Don't fix it if it ain't broke. So I was okay with that. And he was right, because that next 6 months, that tax season, I got an email from the man I live with saying we're going to Germany. And I cried and said, oh my goodness, I don't want to go. I am doing great things in Kansas City, but I recognize that this is what we do. This is what I do. I make concessions about my career challenged life. I make concessions about the things that I do because there are things that are important to me. There are things on that wheel that I want to be 8s, 9s, and 10s. Notice I didn't just say all 10s, because I know it can't always be 10. But there are things on that wheel that I don't ever want to go below that 8. There are things that I want to make sure, and that thing was my family. And so while my career is great, and I do live a lifestyle of the career challenge, and it sometimes seems like I'm doing a whole lot of things and juggling, and why is it not going the way that I want it to go, I recognize that no matter where I go, I'm going to be able to exploit my expertise, just like you all can. And no matter what I'm doing when I'm exploiting my expertise, it's going to be for the good, because I know that it's a positive thing for me to do. So I ask you all to think about those things. I ask you all to keep in mind that when you're talking about putting together your list of jobs that you've done, what your skill sets are, putting together your kitchen cabinet, you think long and hard about those things and realize that it's up to you. And every expert started as an amateur. Thank you.